Hi, my name is Soila Mendoza, and thank you for the opportunity to present today. Today, I will be presenting on a school based trauma informed support program designed for immigrant youth. This presentation is structured um, for school faculty and the school board members with the goal of proposing a program that addresses migration related trauma, promotes emotional safety, and supports academic success. The program I'm proposing builds directly on research focus on trauma informed care, transcultural competence, and tier 2 interventions within the MTSS. For our agenda today, the purpose of this presentation is to propose a trauma informed, culturally responsive Tier 2 intervention designed specifically for immigrant youth in school settings. I will begin by outlining the intervention being proposed in the population it is designed to support. I will then explain why this intervention is needed, supported by research on trauma informed care, transcultural competence, and Tier 2 supports. I will also discuss potential challenges to implementing these interventions in schools, provide a sample activity to show what the intervention would look like in practice, and explain how outcomes and student progress would be measured over time. The intervention I am proposing is a trauma informed, culturally responsive Tier 2 small group support program for immigrant youth. This intervention is designed for immigrant students who are experiencing migration related stress or trauma that may affect their emotional well-being or and school engagement, but who do not require intensive individual treatment. The program would be implemented within a multi-tier system of support as a Tier 2 intervention and deliver in a small group format of approximately 6 to 8 students. Groups would be facilitated by a school social worker and would meet weekly for about 30 to 45 minutes over a 6 to 8 week period. The focus of this intervention is to promote emotional safety, teach coping and emotional regulation skills, strengthen a sense of belonging, and recognize students' cultural identities and strengths. This intervention is needed because immigrant youth often experience trauma at multiple stages of migration, including before, during, and after arrived in the United States. These experiences can include exposure to violence, family separation, uncertainty during migration, and continued stress related to discrimination or immigration status. Research has shown that these stressors can interfere with emotional regulation, concentration in school engagement, family separation, and reunification can also increase emotional distress, which may appear in schools as withdrawn, anxiety, or behavior challenges. These behaviors are often misunderstood when students' migration histories are not fully considered. Because schools are one of the primary environments where immigrant youth spend their time, these challenges highlight the needs for a targeted, trauma informed Tier 2 intervention that addresses emotional well being while also supporting students' ability to engage in learning. Research evidence and trauma informed care. Research has indicated that it supports the use of trauma informed care for working with immigrant youth in school settings. Studies have shown that immigrant youth often experience trauma at multiple points throughout migration, including exposure to violence before migration, stress and fear during migration journey, and persistent stressors after arriving in the US, such as discrimination and fear related to immigration status. Trauma informed care is effective because it shifts the focus away from viewing a student's behavior as a problematic and instead encourages to understand the student's behavior within the context of their lived experience rather than asking what is wrong with the student. A trauma informed care asks what has the student experienced. And this is based on research. And I have the link below. Research also explains that trauma informed practices prioritizes emotional and physical safety and developing a trusting relationship with caring adults. So when it comes to culturally responsive and tier 2 supports, research has indicated the effectiveness of trauma-informed programs when they are combined with transcultural competence and targeted tier 2 interventions. I have linked the research below. It has emphasized that immigrant youth navigate multiple cultural contexts daily and benefit when educators intentionally recognize and affirm their cultural identities within the school settings. Research has also indicated that transcultural competence encourages educators and school staff to reflect on their own cultural background and biases while developing authentic relationships with their students. Furthermore, research has described immigrants' youth ability to move between cultural as transcultural capital, which includes adaptability in communication skills and resilience. While this proposed intervention is supported by research, there are several challenges that schools may face when implementing it. One challenge is limited resources, including time, staffing, and access to trained mental health professionals. Schools often have competing academic demands that can make consistent Tier 2 implementation difficult. Another barrier is limited training in trauma informed care and transcultural competence. Without adequate training in self reflection, staff may unintentionally misunderstand students' behavior or cultural responses to stress. Identifying migration related trauma can also be challenging as students may not openly disclose their experiences. Additionally, immigration related fear or distrust may make families' engagement more difficult. These challenges emphasizes the importance of a thoughtful, culturally responsive planning when implementing an intervention in the school setting. As part of this proposed intervention, students would participate in structure trauma informed small group activity during each session. A typical session would have a brief emotional check in at the beginning, followed by a discussion about stress and coping. Students would then engage in an activity that helps them identify coping strategies, supportive people, and cultural strengths that help them manage stress. This activity is trauma informed because it emphasizes emotional safety, predictability, and choice. It is also culturally responsive by encouraging students to draw on their cultural identities and lived experiences as source of strength. By participating in these activities as part of a consistent small group intervention, students are supported in developing emotional regulation skills, reducing stress, and strengthening their sense of belonging at school. So, when it comes to measures, student outcomes, the effectiveness of this program would be to evaluate the students' emotional, behavioral, and school related outcomes. That would be by looking into the students' improve emotional regulation and students' ability to manage stress more effectively, a student's perceived sense of safety and belonging at their schools, their engagement in learning, and their school relationships. This program aims to strengthen resilience by recognizing the students' cultural strengths. When it comes to progress tracking and the evaluation methods, we would be looking into the student self-reflections and check-ins, right, with the social worker and the student. We're going to be looking at behavioral and emotional changes. We're going to be looking into attendance and classroom engagement. We will check in with teachers and staff to hear their feedback and ongoing family collaboration. In conclusion, immigrant youth experience unique migration related trauma that impacts school functioning. Schools are well positioned to respond through targeted support. This presentation proposes a trauma informed Tier 2 small group intervention, which research supports culturally responsive, strength based approaches. Implementing this intervention can promote safety, resilience, and academic success. Thank you for listening to my presentation. And in the last slide, I have all the references if somebody wants to look into any of the research. Thank you. References used.